Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Dave, creative director of Atmosphir, and we are back yet again with another Atmosphir Forecast episode. This is episode number 4. We're doing pretty good here. We've done 4 weeks in a row, not missing it with a podcast, which is I think a first for us. So congratulations to us, I guess. A little pat on the back there, but. Lots to talk about today. Let's get right into it. We're talking about the desktop version being announced on CNET and having a new trailer come out. And then we'll also talk about the pro designers hoopla in the forums. And then we will move on to your guys' questions from Twitter and Facebook. So starting out with the desktop version on CNET. So this week on Wednesday, we came out with the desktop version being launched on CNET for Mac and Windows, and this was, it's a big deal. It's basically showing putting the game out on different sites to get a little bit more of exposure, and this will continue to happen. You're going to see Atmosphir hopefully in the future on a lot of different of these type of sites where you can download the latest version. But this is a big one for us, and it was a little exclusive window we had there, so we got a little bit of additional exposure, and you'll see now that the game on the download page actually links to CNET, and that's just to give a little bit more exposure there, put us up in the rankings a little bit with their own system, and that's a destination for a lot of people all around the world to get the latest software and games and things like that. So it's nice for us to be listed there, and we'll continue to update the game on there as we continue to make new versions of it. So anyway, it was really cool to see that. It's a small thing, but hopefully it gets some more users and some more players and designers out there. So that's great. Particularly because the desktop version runs so great, it's nice to actually be able to put that out there and get a little bit of additional exposure. It's I think a lot of people might have checked out Atmosphir and then they saw the web version, and they might have tried to play a really big level and got frustrated with the load time and lag time and all that stuff. And hopefully this is a much better experience for them. I think anyone who's played the desktop version can attest to that it's it's really good, and the web play now is more of a casual as you go experience. It's more like check it out, try play a level, that sort of thing. But for longer sessions, I think most of the hardcore players are going to want to play and design with the desktop version. So it was cool to see that, and of course we had the new trailer out. This is put on YouTube last night, and it was really fun to put together. I think it's a much better look at what Atmosphir is today. There's a lot more of some of the bigger levels that people have created. I know a lot of you were excited to see your levels featured in there, and some players and some of the multiplayer sessions that I put in there are in there as well. So it was definitely a fun project to put together. One of the nice things was being able to actually unlock some of the levels that people have created. A lot of the levels that I showed these really big, scenic views of them, and a lot of these levels are design locked, and so that's one of the perks of being, the creative director of Atmosphir, is I got to actually unlock those levels in the back end and load them up in design, and sort of take a look at how people made these really awesome levels, but then also being able to put a camera in there and sort of go through it. So what I did with a lot of these levels, actually, for a lot of the shots is I put a camera system in. I would, make it orbit around something, or do a pan in or zoom out or something like that. And I do it at a relatively slow pace, so it might take a minute or a minute and a half or 2 minutes to do the whole thing. And then I would speed it up when I import into Final Cut, the editing software that I used to put the trailer together. And it just makes it a lot smoother, and there's no popping in or out or anything like that. It's a nice way to go about that sort of thing and show the different landscapes in Atmosphir. So that's sort of a little behind the scenes on how that trailer was made. But some people in the forums were asking and saying, hey, this isn't showing design mode. Design mode is the heart of Atmosphir. Why aren't we showing that? And quite simply because showing design mode is kind of boring, to be honest. I mean, you can get the basic idea that, yes, you're building with blocks and stuff like that, but it's just not as important, I think, and I think we all agreed here at Miner Studios, as showing the actual creations that people make. showing how copy and paste works is not as exciting as showing an enormous planet that someone made or a giant castle. I think for a trailer, the thing is really to excite people and get them to check out the game initially, and hopefully their interest and curiosity are piqued enough that if they see, these sort of things, they want to explore more and check out the game more. And I think we make it very clear that, this is about user-generated content, and you guys are creating all the levels. And if someone, sees these and thinks, hey, I can make something like that, or I'd like to check out how it's possible to make something like those levels, then they can go in and check out design mode. But from a trailer, it's all about trying to excite people and get them interested in the game. And I think showing the gameplay and showing overviews of the levels instead of the actual design process itself is a lot better use of the time, basically. The trailer is only like a minute long, so to waste any of that time on, showing a draft opening rule book or something like that is in any of those type of dialogues or drawing design type things isn't as exciting. So that was the rationale behind that. But I'm hoping to do more of these in the future, to be quite honest. I'd like to do sort of an intro to Atmosphir video, because I think there's so much to Atmosphir that for a first-time user, they might not be able to grasp everything. What are Atmos? What's all this XP and LOTD stuff? Where can I find, how can I get my levels out there and get promoted? How do I customize my character? All that sort of thing. I'd like to do sort of a series, or at least one video that basically goes over all that stuff and tells new users how to use all these things and gives a really good overview of Atmosphir. And hopefully it's not like a textbook and boring. It would be, again, entertaining and interesting and all that stuff. So we'll see. Hopefully I have time for that in the future. I've been so swamped with everything happening. I mean, there's just so much going on right now. It's been pretty tough to focus on any one thing for a long period of time. So we're getting there. Let's move on to the pro designers thing. So this was a big deal in the forums this week, and I'd just like to sort of touch on it here and give some opinions and talk about the discussion that took place and where we're going from here after this. So earlier this week, I was talking, I uploaded on the forums the idea of pro designers. Some designers were saying, hey, we really want, more of a reward or be recognized a little bit more. And, we talked about this pro designers thing for quite some time. And I said, I'm just going to sit down and think it out and hash it out and get it running, get it rolling right now. And so came up with the idea and basically, put it on the forum saying, you could apply to be a pro designer. You would need 10 XP and level of the day levels to be considered, and then you fill out this application form, and that was that. And then we would review them and check them out, and then pro designers would have access to a private forum where we would talk with the development team and get their feedback on new design features and things we were working on, as well as giving them a place to chat with each other, sort of high level designers that might want to have that sort of discussion with each other. And then we were working on having, of course, badges and things like that attached to your profile, and other things we were talking about in the future, special things that are more designer focused rather than player focused. But a lot of people in the forums were a little bit hesitant about this. A lot of people were mainly upset about two things. One thing was sort of the high barrier to entry, saying that 10 XP and level of the day levels was too high of a barrier, and it should be lowered. And then other people were saying that the old levels not being counted, basically saying that any levels made before the Unity version of Atmosphir, Stratosphere, came out, that we weren't counting those levels towards their levels, and they were saying, or towards the 10 XP and level of the day levels that were required for this program. And people were saying that was unfair, that old levels don't count, you're not focusing on the old designers, you're focusing on the new designers too much instead, and all that stuff. Anyway, there was a lot of complaining, so I basically closed it down for the time being to rethink the whole process and talk about it a little bit more in the future. But the primary issue here, I think, is the XP system. We don't want people getting to level 50 yet. We still have a lot of balancing and kinks to work out in the system. And if we flood the play browser with all these different levels, we're not going to get there. There's still a lot of things, and not all just things that you guys can see, but behind the scenes type stuff that we're trying to do to really balance out the XP system and make it as good as possible. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago, or maybe less than that we came out with the XP boosters. There's things like that are constantly coming out that we need to accommodate for, and we don't want people just skipping ahead and leveling up to the point where we can't test all these things and make sure they're all set in place correctly. This is still a work in progress. XP is not a complete system yet. And so the thing that I want to say with that is, level of the days were given before XP was attached to them. So the definition of what a level of the day has changed. Level of the day used to just be, hey, check out this cool level. It might be a really challenging level. It might be just a really cool block art level. There were some old levels that were, just like, this big block art thing where the start and finish flag took 2 seconds to get to, but that counted as a level of the day back then. There were different parameters and the definition was different. And now, the definition of level of the day is quite different. It's there's still things that easy levels and things that might get in there as well, but it's not as it's different of what a level of the day means now, because experience points are attached to it. If you beat a level of the day level, you will get 100 experience points, and that wasn't the case a year ago or 2 years ago. So so we have to think about this, and that was the reason why I said that no levels before. I made sort of a compromise. Basically, I wanted to say that no more, any levels that before the level of the day XP tags, had been implemented would be allowed. But I made a compromise and went back and said, okay, anything made since Stratosphere came out, which was basically February 2011, sorry, that would be bad. That'd be in the future, so no one would be able to join. February 2010, sorry. Would be able to get in be counted as level of the day tag. So I went back. I have a thread up still in the forums if you want to go back. If you had any old level of the days that have not gotten tagged yet, made after February 2010, you can put them in there, and we will add them to the level of the day tag to them. Anyway. It's messy. There's a lot going on and a lot of different emotions and stuff like that. But I think we are going to resurrect this program. And I think, there'll be slightly different guidelines, not too different, but I think, we, at the end of the day, we do want to reward designers somehow. And that's something we've, continually wanted to do. And, just trying to think of different ways to do that. And we think level of the day and XP are nice features to get designers noticed, because that means a lot more people are going to play their level. And as you've noticed, the Play browser right now, for the desktop version, it automatically defaults to XP levels. And so if your level has been tagged by either of those, then you're going to get a lot more plays. And I've noticed that too. If you look at the XP and level of the day levels, they're getting a lot more plays because people want to level up, and it just gets designers a lot more exposure. So that in of itself is showing that we obviously care about designers and want to push them forward, but we want to do more, and particularly we want this to be an elite group. I mean, this is not something that's going to be easy to get into by any stretch of the imagination. It's not something that you can make a couple of levels, and even if they're the best levels, ever, it's not going to be something that's just a cakewalk to get into. We want designers to be in here who are active community members, who are still active community members, who are continually want to be involved in the design process of Atmosphere and the evolution of where Atmosphere design is going, but also be part of the have consistently shown us results that they are among the best designers, that they've created. If you get 10 level of the days or XP levels, it's very clear that the community thinks that you're, particularly the editorial staff, but also the community feel that you are one of the best designers out there, and they continually will play and reward your levels. So I think that elite part is important too. We want this to be something valuable that designers should try to strive for, and we want to make sure that anyone who's in there is someone who who really embodies the cream of the crop, who really is the best designers in Atmosphere. But anyway, I think that's all that can be said about that. It's a long discussion. It'll continue going on for quite some time, I think, but. Basic bottom line is that pro designers will probably be coming back in some form or another, and hopefully it'll be with some rules that everyone, after things have calmed down a little bit, that everyone can sort of agree on. So let's finish up things today with Q&A. I think I got about 8 questions here that we'll finish up with. So We'll start off with Frederick, who says, a long time ago you asked us how you can make Atmosphir more social. What conclusions did you get out of our responses, and what plans have you made based on our responses? So basically he's saying a while back we were talking about, how can we make Atmosphir for a lot of people can be sort of a solitary experience when you're playing the game. And, you're competing against other people and in the leaderboards and looking at the levels. And, yeah, there's co-op and multiplayer. It's, a work in progress. But, for a lot of people, Atmosphir, the forums and the chat are the most social part of the game, right? And so we want to find more ways to get that social aspect into the actual game experience. I'd say there's two things that we want to do with that. One thing in particular is the multiplayer focus. We really want to make multiplayer more of a focus, and as I recently said, we hired a guy recently who that's going to be his sole job, is to sort of fix multiplayer and get it working at the level that we want to. Dropped connections being a thing of the past, and being able to have different modes and more players, and sort of all sorts of different things happening. Just making multiplayer a more reliable and a better user experience, all told, which would lead to co-op design and things like that in the future, of course. So, of course, focusing more on multiplayer and pushing that out there would, of course, make the game more social and, a better experience for a lot of people. And, of course, playing with your friends, that's always a fun thing to do. And the secondary thing that we've been working on is sort of a feed type thing where your activity feed would show up on a profile page, or you'd be able to see what your friends are doing, that sort of thing. Sort of like a Facebook type thing, but we've shown this in the past a little bit. We used to have the latest levels people have played. You'd be able to see their player history. We want to sort of bring that back and show people what your friends are up to, because that's a great way for you to see what your friends are playing and what they're doing or what they're designing. And if your friend releases a new level, you want to be able to know about that immediately. Right now there's no notification system for that, if one of your friends beat your high score or something like that on a level, you might want to know that. So we want to have sort of all these features, and we think that's one of the best ways to discover new content and new levels is to see what your friends are doing. So so those are two things that we're working on right now, but I think there's going to be more things in the future that will be hopefully making Atmosphir into a more social experience. It's not going to be, hey, ask 5 of your Facebook friends to click on this so your cow will eat more hay or something like that. It's not going to be a crappy Facebook definition of what a social game is. That's not what Atmosphir is and will ever be. So, I'm sorry if you wanted your farm to grow from clicking 20 times an hour. That's unfortunately not what's going to happen in the upcoming years of Atmosphir. Sebastian Law asked the next question. I recently watched a Bungie preview. Those things are smart. How long did it take to build the AI alone? So Sebastian's asking about these new characters, the Bungies. Well, new, old. They've been previewed for quite a long time. They're still caught in the abyss of development, where there's a gazillion things we want to add into the game, but none of them are quite complete yet. But Augustine was working on that for a while, one of our very talented programmers, and he was doing, basically putting them together to make them a little smart. So they're actually aware of the environment. They can jump around. They can sort of follow your character. I think the jumping and being aware of the environment is the important thing, because people in Atmosphir are allowed to make whatever they want, and so you can make. It's not like these guys are can be dumb enough to only fit within one type of environment. They have to be able to deal with all sorts of different things and things that people will create. So it's it's still a work in progress. They still have a lot of ways to go, but they're definitely pretty smart. And being able to jump and go across gaps and stuff like that makes them a pretty formidable enemy. And I think that same logic will be applied to a lot of other things in the future. You might have seen the NPCs jumping around in one of the videos that I showed recently. So it'll be the same sort of thing, I think. Bartman64 says, Dave, what was the first video game you played? For me, it's Super Mario 64. Wow, that makes me feel extremely old, because I still remember when Mario 64 first came out. And I remember when that was announced actually when the Tokyo Game Show or whatever they were showing the Ultra 64, which it was called before the Nintendo 64. I actually have a hat that says Ultra 64 on it, which is I guess a collector's item now. Yeah, wow, that makes me feel really old. But basically, the first game I played, I think it was Pole Position 2 for the Atari 7800, because that was the pack-in game for that system, and that was the first system that I owned. I might have played an arcade game or something like that somewhere, but yeah, wow, that really dates me. But that was back in the day. I mean, I was probably 6 or 7 when I played that Pole Position 2. It was a great game. Maybe I was a little older. I don't remember. Anyway, but yeah, Atari 7800, that was a great system. Come on, so good. Okay, moving on. Ads says, I hear the iPad version is back in development. Any interesting info? I don't know where he heard about that, but apparently some of the developers were talking on Twitter or something like that. Probably Martin. He likes to say things and let things leak. But I don't know for sure. I personally don't have an iPad, so I don't. If they are developing stuff, I definitely don't see the latest progress on it. But like I've said on Facebook and recently, I'm going to be going to Buenos Aires in a couple of weeks, so hopefully I'll be able to check out the latest development of it and let you know when I get there. If it is happening, I don't know. I really don't know. We'll see. Maybe they're just lying. Honestly, Martin's lied about a lot of things before, so who knows? He's a pathological liar. He can't help it. Nasmus says, now that there are 3 builds to work with, Windows, OS X, and web, will updates take longer to release? So he's basically saying, because we have all these different builds and the high 5 build and all these different things, is content and new stuff going to take a while to get out there? But no, for the most part, it's really minor differences that separate the 3, and it's not as much about the actual content as it is the interfaces and sort of that stuff. Adding a new block or a new feature or something like that is pretty straightforward and shouldn't take up too much time. In addition, we recently hired quite a few new artists, so having a bigger staff hopefully means that more content will come out at a quicker, hopefully a lot sooner. I think there's sort of a dry spell recently because, the last content we released were the UGC blocks that people came out with. And then before that, the real biggest update we had was the Halloween pack. So it's been a while since new content has come out. But I'm happy to say that, there's a lot more on the way, and definitely 2011 will have a ton of new stuff. Definitely more than 2010 did. That's for sure. So, there's going to be a lot of great new content in the game. Marcod, as I like to call him, said, what's the funniest thing that happened at Minor Studios during the game's development? I can't think of one particular incident. I mean, there's not one thing where, someone fell down the stairs or, we made a mistake and uploaded something incorrectly. I can't think of anything like that. My best memories are the times when either Martin's come to visit here or I've gone to visit Martin or we've gone to a conference together. And whenever we hang out, there's always something crazy is going to happen. It's almost guaranteed. Probably the funniest thing, though, is when we start to talk in accents. Like, a lot of time we'll pretend like we're foreigners or from another country, wherever we are. If we're like we were in Canada, we were speaking in all sorts of different accents and pretending we didn't, speak English. And same with, when he's here, he pretends like, Martin pretends like he can't speak English and he's like trying to bumble his way around San Francisco. Same with me in Buenos Aires. I pretend like I have no idea what's going on, and I really can't speak Spanish, so that actually helps. But we'll do that a lot of times. And Martin has this cowboy accent that he does that he tries to do like a southern accent, like, "Hey partner, how's it going? Hey, where's my horse?" All that stuff, and that was probably better. What you just heard was a better accent than what Martin actually does, because it's just hilarious. He has this. It's just awesome. His American accent is North American accent, I should say, is basically a pretty funny, cowboy style sound, which is funny. So hopefully, if you ever talk to Martin on if he's doing a podcast or a chat or anything like that, you should ask him to do that accent because it's pretty awesome. And there's other stories too, like the time Martin dropped his iPhone into into a bathroom, but we won't go there. That's not worth talking about in the podcast. But anyway, Berberto asks, what do you think my next level should be? I'm going to dedicate it to you, Dave, and I'm going to put a lot of work into it. Thanks, Berberto. I appreciate it. I don't know. Do whatever you want. I don't care. I'd like to see another one of those huge 2D like Metroidvania style levels. I think those were pretty popular for a while when the camera tools came out, and I haven't seen as many since then, but I really, really enjoy those levels, particularly when you have to kind of backtrack and go back to the different places. I think that's really cool, and I think there's a lot of unexplored territory with designers doing that. So it'd be nice to see something like that. But do whatever you want. I don't care. But I will definitely play it because I like all your levels. Finally, last question today comes from Bramblepath, who says, I'm curious about your opinion, discussion point for the next podcast, and he linked to something in the forums, which is basically talking about visibility settings for people and saying, he's trying to design a really big level, and he was afraid that it was going to lag on a lot of people's computers because there was so much going on in the background, and he was wondering, is there a way to say, in this particular area, set the visibility to 50% or the graphics settings to low so something will run correctly. And then also people were bringing up points in this thread, not in this thread, but I think other threads about capacity and saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if pro designers were able to get 150% capacity, or, if you're a club member, you get 150, 200% capacity or something like that. So this is a difficult area because, we, as usual, Atmosphir is trying to make itself as widespread to work on as many computers as possible, and that's the reason that the capacity bars in the first place. You can only put so many blocks in a level before it starts to run slow on the majority of computers, and as we've seen with a lot of people, not everyone has the greatest computer setups. We've got schools that are using Atmosphir that obviously, they're probably getting some, not the highest end graphic cards in their computers. So we want to make sure that Atmosphir is a smooth enough experience for everybody. And I think that's what Bramblepath is trying to take into account, saying, wouldn't it be nice if I could, force people to change their graphic settings in particular areas? And, on the higher end too, like some people have used shadows in their level, and a lot of people turn shadows off for performance reasons. So it's kind of, risky if you put shadows in. Are people going to be able to do that? So it can, it can go both ways. It's kind of difficult though because we don't really want to, I feel like that's more of a player side thing. We want players to sort of have the control over how good or how poor the level is running, and have the ability to do that. And I think I would almost rather have better player controls to do that before I would give designers the ability to to sort of change the graphics settings, I guess. I think a better way to go about this, and also in relation to the capacity thing, is the ability to link levels together. And we've talked about this a lot before, but that solves basically a lot of issues that people would have if you are able to say, okay, from this level be able to warp to a second level, and this level warp to another level, and then find a finish flag in the third part, and that's beating the level. Then you're able to separate your level into a bunch of different sections that connect together, and you don't have to worry about capacity because you can make a level that's 100 levels deep, basically, sub levels, I guess you could call them, and it would be perfectly fine. So that's something we're working on right now. To be honest, this morning I was working on the documentation for that. We're going to have, right now at least the way it's looking, are these warp tiles, they're called, that are basically picture frames that have a picture, a screenshot of the level that you're warping to, and you can hide levels so they don't show up in searches, so they're only warpable or that sort of thing. You'd be able to make like a hub world where you could say, hey, here's my my house, there's a museum of all these different levels that I've created, that sort of thing, where you can warp to any of the levels that I've made, or my friends' levels. I can put them, basically being able to put warps and link to any other level in the game would be a pretty cool experience, and I think that's going to solve a lot of these issues that people are having. I think all of us, our natural instinct as designers at least, is to want to keep pushing the limits and make these massive, cathedrals and castles and mountains and all sorts of different things. And there's certainly limitations within the 100% limit. But hopefully this will help solve that. And I think this is this is a very important feature to us. I won't give a time frame for it, but I'd say this is this is going to be pretty prominent and play a big role in the coming months. So hopefully it'll get out there. Okay, well, I think that does it for today. Thanks, guys, so much for listening. And as always, stay tuned to atmosphir.com for all the latest news and contests and updates. And please, if you haven't followed us yet on Twitter or Facebook, make sure to do that, where we'll ask you guys, ask for your guys' questions every week. And as well as, looking for this on iTunes. If you have iTunes or RSS feeder or something like that, you can subscribe to this podcast. There should be links on the forums and that sort of stuff where you can make sure you always get the latest episodes, and they can be directly loaded into iTunes or whatever your RSS reader type is, whatever you want. So that's it for today. Thanks, guys, so much for listening, and take care. Bye.